There is an update on the Irish lady that kept catfishing all of those semi-pro footballers, whatever you want to call them, from the GAA. She didn't retire from catfishing, she actually carried on. One night in 2024, these guys go into a pub, and when they're in there, they overhear this girl having a conversation with somebody, and she's saying that she's seeing this footballer and his name is Connor. And one of these guys that happens to overhear it, he knows that Connor. And so at some point in the night, he goes outside and he makes a phone call to that Connor, and he says, guess what, your girlfriend's in here. And Connor's like, I don't have a girlfriend, but I am talking to a girl on Instagram. And they kind of go back and forth about what this girl in the pub looks like, and this girl in the pub has brown hair, but the girl that he's talking to has blonde hair, and they realise that it couldn't possibly be the same girl. The boys do something quite smart. So the one that's messaging the girl on Instagram, he says, go back inside the pub, I'll message this girl on Instagram, and then you see if it flashes up on her phone. So he does, he sits back and he watches the other guy messages her on Instagram, and he sees the phone light up. And so they put two and two together and they realise that this girl with the dark hair, she is in fact catfishing him. And not only that, the blonde girl that this other footballer has been seeing, talking to on Instagram, he goes onto her story and he sees that she has uploaded a picture of a beer, a cider. Then this guy that's in the pub, he snaps a pic of this dark-haired girl that is clearly texting him back, and on the table in front of her there is the same bottle of beer. And so it is conclusive, we're pretty sure that that is the catfish. She has not retired, she's still up to her old tricks. And then one of them mentions to this guy that's getting catfished that this story sounds a lot like one that they heard on a podcast, and that is when this group of friends contact the podcast host and tell them. The girl in the pub that night, the one with dark hair, she had also mentioned this other guy, a manager of a football club that her friend was supposedly seeing. So then this group of friends and the podcast host reach out to this manager, and he confirms that he has been talking to another girl whose name is Emma, and whose best friend is apparently seeing the footballer. It's basically the same playbook as before, where she pretends to be two best friends, but actually it's her. So in the final part of the podcast, you get to hear from the footballer who's been seeing this girl called Aoife, and you also get to hear from manager Mike, who has been seeing Aoife's best friend Emma. But the story does take a little bit of a dark turn, whereby the catfish Aoife makes some very, very disturbing accusations against some GAA players, which this guy knows. Says that her ex was crazy and that she's worried he's going to put the windows through, or he had put the windows through, and it's making her want to herself, and girls around her town all hate her and she's scared to leave her house. And the claims go on to get a lot worse. A lot worse. I'm not going to say them here, but just trust me on that. So this football player is thinking, this is very complicated. I don't know if I want to be getting myself involved in the drama of this, but he really likes her. And whenever he stops messaging her, her entire family start to message him. So he's getting like pressure from her family saying that she needs you right now and you're not messaging her, like, where have you gone? So he carries on messaging her, and he does invite her to some of his games. So he leaves a ticket for this particular game like on front desk or with his family, and she's supposed to be sitting next to his family, but he doesn't tell his family that he's invited this girl. He just expects to see her there, and of course she doesn't arrive. But a random guy does come and sit next to his family, and so he can't really work out what's going on. But then he does see on her stories that she was in fact at the match, and she takes pictures of the ground, so she was there. And in fact, some of the pictures are so close to where he was that she must have been right in front of him. But of course he doesn't know who she is, because he doesn't know what she actually looks like. He is looking for the blonde girl that he has been messaging, this Aoife. At one point while they're talking to each other, she ends up saying that she's had a liver transplant and ended up in hospital for a month and in a wheelchair for 2 weeks. Every time he stops messaging her, he then has to deal with her brothers messaging him. There's like a whole network of people that will then pressure him again. But eventually he just decides, I cannot talk to this person. I think she's a catfish. And he very smartly starts to realise that if she's making these accusations against these other guys and it's not true, I could be the next one. And he's right. And then we hear from manager Mike. So this guy is seeing supposedly Aoife's best friend, Emma. I think that's how you pronounce it, sorry if I'm butchering that. And manager Mike, he hears the same story, exactly the same, but from the best friend's point of view. So he hears that she's having lots of trouble, how people in the town don't like the best friend. Meanwhile, they make lots of dates, but there is always an excuse as to why they can never meet up. One of the excuses is that her best friend, Aoife, you know, the one that was seeing the other guy, she has died. She's died. The stress from all the hate has killed her off. And that's all we get. We don't get a further explanation of that, which is convenient timing, because they were supposed to go and see this like big match, which apparently manager Mike really wanted to go and see. It was like hard to get tickets, and this Emma apparently could get tickets, and so he was like, hell yeah, I'll go with you, kind of just assuming that it would never happen. And then he hears, yes, Aoife has died. Now This girl, the best friend, Ema, goes to her best friend's house, clears it out within a day, buries her like the next day apparently, and somehow still thinks that she will go to a match, which obviously never materializes. Okay, so to summarize, we now have Aoife and Ema best friends. We have Aoife's entire family. I think there was like 3 brothers that she supposedly had. Both girls apparently also have cousins, which are famous footballers, which have been also proven to be lies, of course. Aoife, the fake profile, the lady who that account is based on, like the pictures who have been stolen, she is on here, she's done a video, and she actually gives screenshots of her conversation with this catfish, because the catfish had catfished her too. Basically said, like, do you want to meet up? Do you want to go and watch the football? And one day she just gets a message from this girl who she never ended up meeting up with saying, my boyfriend's going to text you. He thinks that we're the same person. Really confusing. I'm absolutely certain that I have left a lot out there, but there's just no way for me to fit it all into one video. And also there are some stuff that I just don't even want to say out loud. But I will say this. I know that people have found this girl's true identity. I know that her name isn't actually Nikki. I don't want anybody to write her name in the comments. This story is so interesting and the plot just keeps twisting and changing and it just gets thicker. But it can be very easy for us to enter into like a mob mentality on the internet and go full force into hate of one single person, and it isn't helpful. Please do not feel like there is safety in numbers, because there isn't. You need to be responsible for your own actions. You can view this girl's decision to start catfishing again as that she hasn't learnt her lesson, or you can view it that she can't stop herself. And the truth is, we don't know which one of those it is. So we need to be very responsible with our reactions to this person. See this video as entertainment. Hear the podcast as a cautionary tale and entertainment. Do not go looking for the real identity of that person, and if you do manage to find her, please don't leave hate. We have seen in the past how badly that can go. Please try and remember that this is somebody's daughter, as hard as that might be when you are angry about the accusations and whatever. Try and keep that in mind. Also, just to mention, Netflix and BBC were interested in making a documentary about this, and they did approach the podcast host, and at first they were looking into it. However, the podcast host said that they would only do it if the catfish herself was on board with it, and I thought that that was quite responsible. She said that she didn't want to be in it, and so they ended up not making it. I think that was the right choice. Please be aware, if you go and listen to that last part of the podcast, that there are some dark themes that are mentioned, and there is one joke that flies a little bit close to the line. It was interesting, I did enjoy it. I particularly love the accents. And apparently GAA doesn't mean professional footballers, it just means they train like professionals, but they're not. I've learned something new.